doctor and truth. When questions and debates arise, we always talk to you. All time and space and liberty. Rambling canopies all belong to thee. Rambling canopies all belong to thee.
Good morning, all. Hope your Saturday is going well. Just gotta get this thing to minimize, and of course it's gonna argue with me just because it hates me. But that's neither here nor there. So we have Schwarmore, number one Sci-Fi Nation, welcome. Bird of Prey 5, Kaplaw. Not Ryan Johnson. Sci-Fi Nation saying hi to Bird. And Bird of Prey 5 is laughing, Cinnamon Bun, and we'll get this going. Hopefully, I actually had a good sleep for once, so I'm somewhat more awake than normal. So this should be good, I hope. There we go. Get the link out in case somebody wants to join me. It's not as early as I've gone on before. Val Mike joins. Welcome. So I kind of want to just ramble a little bit, maybe talk some Orville, because I actually watched some of the episodes. But let's see here. Number one Sci-Fi, first one to jump in. Good morning, sir. How are we?
Okay, for the most part.
Yeah, it's about the same. And Bird of Prey 5, Sci-Fi Nation, welcome and good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, Mrs. Sci-Fi. Good morning, Bird.
Sorry, can you hear the vacuum in the background?
No.
Okay, good. Mom will praise cleaning it. I just wasn't sure if it was too loud.
Oh, no, you're good.
I was going to say,
good morning, everybody.
morning, Bird.
So, yeah, Rambling. I was actually followed your link on Twitter to get to that stream.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea. I don't usually follow his stuff.
Yeah, well, I saw Sci-Fi. It's funny because I saw Sci-Fi post it, and then I was just killing time.
Captain Track was there too, I think.
Yeah, I was just kind of killing time, and I was like, okay, I'll throw that on while I'm getting, having my breakfast, and then I'm prepping for the morning show, and I was just kind of listening in, and getting a feel for where they are, because I haven't really, I haven't watched a lot of the Axonar stuff or paid much attention to it. So,
I mean, I saw some recent trailers. I mean, it looks amazing.
That's what I've seen. From what I've seen, it looks great.
It does.
But I mean, I can't say I'm an aficionado or anything, but
right. I mean, I think anybody who's ever seen it, whether you've seen Prelude or just the trailers, I don't think anybody say, "Oh, that looks like crap." I don't think anybody has that opinion. So I'm not going to go around pushing it. It's like, well, if you're not promoting Axonar, you're not like a real Trek fan. I'm like, what?
Yeah, see, that argument I hate so much, and it got me a little bit in trouble on Sci-Fi stream the other night. But just hold on, Sci-Fi. It got me in a little bit of trouble. But that argument pisses me off more than any other argument. Is when somebody says, "Well, either I like something and you don't, therefore you're not a fan," or
another true Trekkie fallacy.
Right.
Well, yeah, but I could understand it. I could almost understand it if I say, well, you're not a true Trekkie if you don't like Deep Space Nine. And granted, that's stupid, but I could understand it. But when you're the person who owns Deep Space Nine.
Yeah,
And you say that's a whole other level of conceit.
yeah, that's a whole nother level. Yeah, but for me, that argument always annoys me because it's
Okay.
just like, really, seriously, you know, to stand judge and jury over, you know, the degree of fandom of a certain of somebody else, just
Well,
kind
let me
of.
ask you guys a question. Would you guys consider the vile child a Trekkie?
I mean, she's
No.
doing it because you
No.
ask her to.
Well, she's a huge fan of Spock. She likes the
You know
J2
what?
film.
She wants a phaser. She's a Trekkie.
She would love a phaser, but she's never seen Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, Discovery, or Picard. And the only Star Trek original series episodes she's seen are the ones we've reviewed.
Well, millions of Trekkies had only seen those episodes back in the day. They were still Trekkies back in season 1.
I would still say she's a Trekkie because she enjoys the characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably
that's all that
in
matters.
time. Sorry to talk over you there, Vile.
Sorry.
But you know, for me, I think it's not how much you've seen or how many years you've watched a show that makes you a fan. It's if you can watch it, even just a glimpse of it, and be like, you know what, I like that. And throughout their time, they'll probably go back and watch the other stuff. They just haven't gotten around to it yet.
That's basically it. I mean, she even has a one of the old toy models of the Enterprise D that someone gave her at the swap meet because she showed interest in it.
Yeah,
and she was really cute at the time.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
So, I mean, it's not that she doesn't have, no experience. It's just that she's only a fan of the stuff she's seen so far.
Yeah, which is understandable.
And I would say, even if you dislike Picard or Discovery, you are still a Trekkie.
Yeah,
and I'm still a Trekkie if I like Picard.
Yeah, it's just different tastes. Everyone has different life experiences, and everybody likes different things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you're saying, it's who decides who's the judge of what's a fan and who isn't a fan.
Yeah,
I decide.
Well, that's because you're the leader of Kuroga, and we all bow down to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The vile ones do not bow down to the Kuroga.
Uh-oh.
Their maps aren't to scale.
And it begins. So I guess to change up things a little bit, I'm gonna first off, I want to say, because over the last 24 hours, kind of a little RIP here segment. We lost Kenny Rogers. I'm a country music fan, so you can make fun of me all you want, but I like my classic country. And
Cue the banjos.
Yeah, cue the banjos. Cue the Johnny Cash. Cue the Tex Ritter. Anyway, Red Solvine. But yeah, so he will be missed. There will be there won't be another gambler, and just hope that his family is doing okay. I know financially they'll be set for life, but yeah, just a little side note.
Insert joke about country music here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I knew they were come, but whatever. You play a country song backwards. The guy keeps his wife. His truck doesn't break down. Dog doesn't die.
Yeah.
If
you want a good life, just play a country song backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's funny is I actually have a certain member of my family who I won't name who is a country music singer, and I still can't stand country.
And it's fine. Everybody, I mean, myself, I like country, some rock. Even some country pisses me off. Some of the new stuff drives me absolutely up the freaking wall.
So you don't like Taylor Swift?
No, she ain't that swift.
Come on, get Swifty.
No, thanks. Yeah, no. I mean, new stuff. I like Johnny Reed. He's good. Amazing concert live. But yeah, I mean, some of the new stuff is just I don't care for it because it's more pop than it is country. And Shania Twain started that.
Yeah, F her.
Yeah, she released the same album on the pop charts as she did the country the country charts, and all she did was change the cover.
It started in the 90s when you had country singers trying to do rock and roll songs. A good example of that is "Life Is a Highway" by Tom Cochrane, and then you had that dumbass country version of it that sounded like shit.
Yeah. And as much as I love, as much as I have respect for Brad Paisley, he should have never redone Convoy. And I don't care if it was for a movie.
And then there was another
Paul Brandt, sorry.
What was it? Some pop song or country song? I don't know, but there was like two artists and two different genres doing the same song at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, seriously?
And then, to that, I mean, then you have it done well when Johnny Cash redid "Hurt." Even the 9 Inch Nails was flattered, but I guess it also has to do with it being Johnny Cash. But
Right. Well, there's a video out there on YouTube. I sent it to DJ, but there's somebody went and did a Johnny Cash and Eazy-E remix.
Okay.
I think I might have sent it to you. I'm not sure, but that was pretty damn good. They actually did it.
I think you did, but I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. But yesterday I was dealing with my daughter, and today I'm kind of relaxed.
Music in general is pretty much interchangeable. You could mash up and mix a lot of music almost regardless of the genre.
Yeah, for the most part.
Well, it was oh god, I'm gonna get slammed for not knowing the name of the song. It was where he hears the train coming. Oh, Folsom Prison, something like that. And and then Eazy-E was singing his chorus from one of the NWA rap songs.
Okay,
but it was to the same beat that Johnny was singing. They were singing at different times, but they just did it. I mean, it sounds flawless. It's like they were right there doing it together at the same time.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So now I'll move on to what I'm going to get flack for, but whatever. Let's move on to the Orville because I finally actually watched some of it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Ugh, yuck. Icky, yucky.
What, you didn't like it?
How far did you get?
Well, I watched 8 episodes, season 1.
Wow.
And I will say that for me, it was a tale of two shows. The first 4, if I had stopped watching after the first 4, because honestly I wanted to, I think I would have missed out. Because the next 4 that followed, I actually rather enjoyed. And for me, it was the tale of two different shows. The first 4 episodes did not land with me at all. I didn't like... It was a little too comedic heavy for me. But then the one with... And then episode 5, when she's dealing with her children and they get marooned on a planet, that one resonated with me because her yelling, leaning over, yelling back at them reminded me of so many family trips, having 4 kids. So that one I liked, and then the ones after I enjoyed. But for me, it was a tale of two different shows.
Well, sci-fi in general tends to have a bumpy start. I mean, what sci-fi show would you say was really good in all 4 first episodes?
Yeah, I can agree with you, and that's why I always like to try to watch the full, like at least one season, right? So I can get a full idea, not just one or two episodes and then go, yeah, that's garbage, and move on.
Well, another thing I was going to say, just to keep in mind, is it is a show created by Seth MacFarlane. Okay, Family Guy was really popular. It was on Fox when it first started. So yeah, he might have went a little over the top with the comedy, but it's really toned down.
The humor drops off.
Yeah, and that's what I meant. Like that's what I got from it was Tale of Two Shows. Between the first 4 I watched and the last 4 I watched, it was the tale of two different shows. So far the one that I hate the most that I've watched, and I know Bird's gonna yell at me, but it was the whole baby episode where they were.
I thought that was high concept sci-fi.
I hated that. It made me so mad.
Why?
I think that's the point of that episode, though.
Are you
Is to
mad
make certain
because of
people
the
mad.
decision, or are you mad because
The decision.
Because a gay alien sat on an egg?
No. That's fine.
it's confirmed he hates gay aliens?
No. No, Bird.
Okay, for the decision, you're mad about the decision.
Yeah,
That even after that whole trial, they still
the
wanted
whole
to do
thing,
murder.
and
It's
then
supposed
they
to
do it
make you
anyway,
mad.
right?
It's supposed to make you mad.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of the show, is to make you mad because of their society.
And think of it this way. One of the things you can compare that episode to is the argument over circumcision. Could you imagine that if it had been circumcision as opposed to reassignment surgery, what your opinions on the matter would have been?
Yeah.
Well, the point of that episode, I think, was nobody is supposed to be happy.
Yeah.
No one's supposed to be
That's
happy.
why
with
it was
that
great.
episode. No matter what your decision was, no matter how you felt, nobody was supposed to come out of that happy.
For me, the part that made me mad about the decision was, to me, it was a complete and utter waste of time.
It wasn't a waste of time because it made people think, and that was the point of the episode. That's the point of highbrow sci-fi, is to make you think.
It didn't land with me. I didn't like it at all.
What did you think about the original series episode with the black and white guys? Let that be your last battlefield.
Honestly, it's been so long since I've seen it. I could only remember bits and pieces of it, so I wouldn't.
That's the one where you
go
have.
back and watch it.
Because to me, it was similar to that in that the ending wasn't happy. It wasn't a happy ending.
No, but that episode is based more off of like a racism type hatred, and they were fighting over it, and they destroyed their entire civilization. But you're right. At the end of the day, it still was not a good, happy, feel-good ending.
Yeah,
Right.
but-
I mean, like that was what I meant. I mean, yeah, I know it was one's racism, one's not, but at the end of the day, you were like, oh, these guys should settle their differences and go kumbaya and bring back their race. But instead, they're still fighting each other to the death.
Yeah, but to me, it just.
Okay. I mean, I listen. Obviously, everybody has different opinions, but I thought, I mean, that was the episode that for me, I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be a good show. So for
Yeah,
you,
I
it's
kinda
another
agree with Bert
episode.
on that
That's
one.
okay. I mean,
For me, that was episode 5.
Yeah, but I think that episode did what it needed to do, because here we are arguing about it and
Yeah,
comparing
yeah.
things about it.
And I get that.
That's why it works. It's like, because it's not everybody is going to enjoy how it ended.
I
And
will
that's
give you
how
a
life
heads up,
usually
though,
is
Rambling,
you're not happy at the end.
Yeah,
is if you didn't like episode 3, the Mocklins are probably going to be the most explored species in this show,
Georgia.
especially in season 2. So
Okay.
good luck.
Well, it's just, for me, it was it was anticlimactic for me, and I think that's why it just fell flat, because it just seemed like, okay, you did all this, and at the end of the day, we might as well just done the surgery in the beginning.
Well, the union's not always the right. I mean, I think the union doesn't always make the decision that everybody agrees with.
Yeah, it just.
And I think you're a little bit biased because in Star Trek, the ending that would have happened is probably the one you would have wanted. But I think Orville is a little bit more grounded in that respect because in the end, no one is actually happy. And that's how compromises usually are, is you can tell it's a good compromise when no one's happy.
And Ramble, I don't know, because I forget exactly if you've seen it by episode 8 yet or not. But I will tell you that episode 3 has lasting ramifications through the entire series. So they're gonna come back to that again and again in terms of Bortus and Clyden and Mocklins in general.
The other thing I didn't like about that episode is I thought the roles were wrong. But that's just my opinion. Like in my opinion, I didn't like the way the episode was done.
You wanted Clyden to be the one,
yeah,
to not change her.
Yeah.
Well,
I completely disagree with that because think of it as, again, an allegory to today with conversion therapy. Some of the most strident proponents of conversion therapy are people who say that it actually worked on them.
I could buy that, but what I can't buy is that Rudolph the stupid reindeer was what changed his mind.
Well, he's an alien. You're never going to know what's going to affect an alien thinks.
It didn't land. It did not land.
Rudolph's difference that made him the hero.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a bit of a spoiler here, but Dolly fucking Parton.
Don't warn him about Dolly Parton.
Oh, God.
Let's just say Mocklin seemed to be easily convinced.
Okay.
About things, but no. I'll grant you. I thought that was a weak part of the episode, that it was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer that changed Bortus's mind. I will do that.
Because I disagree. I think Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was a great reason because it is specifically designed to teach children how to get along with the others with differences.
Okay,
and that's how you teach people is a simple story that children can relate to.
Okay, but then you flip that, and I would almost argue that if you did the same thing in Picard, the argument would be, what was the point of that episode?
That's because people just love to hate on Picard because
if you transferred it over, if you transferred that same storyline over.
I think that's because a little bit of Trek, especially the TNG and Picard type stuff, kind of has a stick up its butt and wouldn't want to make that kind of comparison.
But again, right? So if I'm looking at this on an even keel, I'm going, well, okay, would this work? Would it?
I would say it would depend on it would depend on the crew of the ship. Because have you ever read any of the Star Trek New Frontier stuff?
No.
See, I could imagine the captain of that ship, Mackenzie Calhoun, pulling off the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer thing, because it's the type of captain he is.
Yeah.
Picard, on the other hand, is a kind of a stuffy Brit and wouldn't think like that.
Yeah, but no, for me, I just no. It just, some of it was for comedy's sake, and it got old and fast. But again, like I say, it's the tale of two shows for me.
I
the first four, I absolutely loathed, and then the secondaries I thoroughly enjoyed. And I will give the Orville this: the ship porn is beautiful. Like I will give them that. The ship porn in that show is fucking amazing. But
you know what? One of the things I always thought was funny is I always had a small design for a spaceship that I've been using as my headcanon for, like if I ever did a sci-fi show.
Yeah.
That is very similar to the Orville.
Okay.
And I almost felt like, holy shit, how did they find the design I drew in grade school?
Yeah. I got to start worrying.
This is going to be unpopular, but I actually don't like the design of the Orville. I don't. I mean, I tolerate it because it's a great show, but I would almost any other spaceship we've seen on TV, I think, is better than the Orville.
That's it. Overthrow bird from Kuroga.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be unpopular, but I'll be honest.
Well, and you know what? I mean, if I really wanted to be, I guess, disingenuous, I should have, I would say, oh yeah, I loved it, loved every aspect of it. But there were certain things in that show that just did not land with me. But there were certain things that did, and I that's just me being honest with it.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, like there are certain things about The Expanse that I find incredibly boring and really dumb cliche for such a highbrow show, but I still enjoy the show overall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's always going to be something in every show that you're going to be like, why don't you got to force yourself to get through it just to enjoy what you know is coming.
Yeah. And like I say, like for me, it was a tale of two different shows. The first 4 and then the next 4 that I watched.
I wonder if there was a bit of executive meddling in the first couple of shows that they were like, oh, this is a Seth MacFarlane show. You've got to throw in more comedy.
Yeah, but probably. And that could have been it. And I mean, for me, just on, I guess, family, how can we say this? Family bias. I was always Simpsons over Family Guy any day of the week. But then again, I've got an uncle that will hang up on a long distance phone call because homie's on. But that's the point.
I'm also Simpsons over.
Is your uncle General Jack O'Neill?
No, Bob McMahon actually. But no, it's funny. He'll stop everything. He would stop everything if The Simpsons came on. Like, it didn't matter. He'd be talking long distance to somebody he hadn't talked to in 6 months. Homer Simpson, The Simpsons would come on. Hey, I gotta go. Homie's on. Click. Like, you've been bumped by Homer Simpson. You're screwed. So you learned to know when that show was on in Ontario, so that you didn't phone my uncle during that period, or you got ignored.
If I could address Cinnabon real quick, I wasn't saying that you just like to hate on it because you don't like it, but a lot of the reactions and arguments I've seen about the show really didn't present any cognitive arguments about, what was wrong with the show in a storytelling aspect, a character development type aspect, because it just, in the way I feel, it does have character development. It does have those aspects. And it just feels like people are getting butthurt over the sense that it isn't 90s Trek. And, if that's why you don't like a show, fine, go watch 90s Trek. Don't. I don't know. It's frustrating.
And to answer Captain Track, no, there's no good episodes of The Expanse in season 1. It takes to season 2.
Yeah, for The Expanse, for me, it was like watching like the first 4 or 5 episodes of Breaking Bad, where it's just like, all right, all these people talk about how great it is, and I'm like, when does it get good? It just seemed like Expanse season 1 is just like, let's just lay down the foundation, but it took a long time to lay down a foundation.
So what you're telling me is when I finally go to sit down and watch that show, I'm going to have a long season 1.
Yeah,
you will. Definitely will.
Okay.
If you're talking about a show with like a Tale of Two Cities type show, the Expanse is very much similar to that.
Well, whether you end up hating it or loving it, it's going to be a long season 1 either way.
Okay.
Because go ahead, Bert.
I'm so sorry. Just before I forget, has anybody seen? Somebody told me about it. War of the Worlds on Epix. Apparently, it's been going on for a few weeks now. I heard somebody say, "Oh, you should watch it. It's good," but I haven't heard anybody ever talk about it. I didn't even know.
No,
it's a series.
Epix is. To be honest,
it's another channel, but a lot cheaper than HBO or Showtime.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't even know what Epix is, so I couldn't tell you.
They had, what was that? Counterpart, I think. Did Epix had Counterpart? Counterpart was a good show, but they only went 2 seasons.
I didn't even know they were doing a show. All I knew was the movie they had back however long ago that was.
I mean, there's a
the
trailer
reboot.
for it. It looked pretty decent. I just know if anybody ever heard of it. I don't think anybody's heard of it on YouTube. I don't know.
I think I heard about it, but it was just I'm not gonna pay more money just for one show.
Well, I think it's like literally like $3.99 a month. So I'll
But
probably
it,
check it
it,
out.
Yeah,
it,
sorry.
it all starts adding up when you start looking at, oh, I'm gonna look at this show on this channel.
I'll
this
grant you
streaming,
that, but
you know.
CBS All Access is probably going to end in a week if they don't. If they're not broadcasting another Trek show after Picard, there's no reason to keep them. So
I think if it's good, I'll wait until they do one of those free previews because I have Sling TV, and they'll do like the free, like a week or a weekend or a week of free, and when it comes around again, maybe I'll check it out.
I'm not ignoring you, Kronos. I can't respond to every chat. It's unfair to everyone else.
Hi, Kronos.
Mama
Hi,
prays. Hi.
Kronos.
And to everybody.
But yeah, so I mean, like the Orville is it's not not as bad as, well, for the first 4 it was as bad as I feared it would be, but it got better, which is promising.
So you're gonna watch the rest?
Oh
you
yeah,
think?
yeah,
Oh.
oh yeah. I'll try to catch up before season 3 starts.
I have to catch up because I just have a problem with Seth MacFarlane. Just something about him just gnaws on me. I'm like, I can tell they take him in like small doses. So I'll go through an episode, maybe 2 episodes at the most, and I'm like, all right, I can't with him anymore. Even though there's other things in the show I think are great. It's just when he rolls around, I'm like, okay.
All right. Can someone explain one thing about the Orville to me that I don't understand why it gets a pass when everyone complains about it in Next Generation?
Sure.
What about the families aboard the ship?
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, there's not actual. I mean, Finn's got her kids. Like officers have their kids, but I don't think there's like.
Ordis has his husband and his kid now. There's an actual teacher with enough students to warrant a classroom. So there's more than just those 2 kids.
It is only a medium range explorer, even though they seem to get into firefights quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't give it a pass. I don't give it a pass because it's like if you're gonna knock it on TNG, you got to knock it on the Orville. It's just.
But I see so many people giving TNG hate for it, but Orville's doing the same thing, and they're like, "Well, Orville's doing it different." And I think the only excuse that I've seen that is even slightly okay is the fact that the Orville is just your average ship of the fleet, whereas the Enterprise was the flagship.
That is true. I mean, the Orville's primary mission is not exploring strange new
Well,
worlds.
the Enterprise is also it's supposed to be called a Galaxy class explorer.
I get that, but that's because Star Trek doesn't think there is any military at the time. I think that they will address it. I think that there's going to be an episode where Mercer's going to be like, are we crazy for having kids out here? Because I think probably a kid is going to get hurt or something, and they're going to address it. They listen, we've got war possibly with the Krill, war possibly with. I don't want to give away things to rambling, but there's 3 at least species that they could be fighting with at any given time, and that maybe it's not right to have families on board anymore.
And that would be a perfectly. I think that'd be an awesome episode to have on the Orville. And I think Seth would be the one to pull it off, to be honest with you.
Well, in the same vein, I mean, we hear, people yelling and screaming about the swearing on Picard, but I don't hear yelling and screaming about the swearing on the Orville.
But it's
same
Seth
vein.
MacFarlane, you kind of expect it.
But that's not the point.
I know.
Again, I think it's because people have the idea that Trek has this big stick up its butt and shouldn't be like that. But I think
into that is why can't Trek evolve? TV evolves all the time.
I agree with you, sci-fi, and I hate saying that.
But you see, my point is more, well, my kids can't watch Picard because they're swearing. Well, then do your kids watch the Orville? Because if the answer is yes, then you're a hypocrite. because
Oh,
there's
like,
more swearing.
no one in this country is a hypocrite, or your country.
Yeah, well, everybody is. Let's be honest. It depends on what we like and what we don't like. If we like something, we give it a pass. If we don't like something, we don't. That's just
Exactly, and that's
human
the
nature.
problem with a lot of those debates is it's all subjective. It depends on how a person feels versus how another person feels. I mean, one man's piece of crap is another man's golden gem in the sky that can do no wrong. So
Yeah, and I find that when it comes down to the shows, if you like something, it's going to get a pass on a lot more than if you don't like the show. Then it's not going to get a pass.
I had got into a conversation on Bird's last review video for Picard. Somebody was like, "Oh, you must." He was basically saying Bird must just like to rant and hate on Picard. Why can't he just sit back and enjoy it?
Yeah,
And I responded saying, "That's not the point. The point is that if you knew anything about Bird, is he wants Star Trek to be good." And when he finds things in there he doesn't like, that's when he does these reviews. It's like he's putting out his opinion just as you're putting out your opinion. And
Well-
like the bottom line was, if you don't like what Bird says, it's like that's not a problem with Bird. That's the problem with you.
yeah, and I'll say this, and I won't just say it because Bird's here. That's one reason why I will watch Bird's review, even though he gave Picard a much lower score than I did, and I will watch Anti-Trekker. Is because I know whatever they say in that video is how they actually feel and how they actually view it. And not just because, if I say that Picard is terrible, I'm going to get a click. And I'm not saying anybody does that, but I'm just saying I know from, watching Bird's live streams, watching how, Bird review other things, I know that if he says, well, I have an issue with thus, I may disagree with him, but at the same time, I know he's being genuine.
Yeah,
I am still here, Captain Track, or Kronos. I just didn't answer because Sassy was going crazy. And just to address the cursing on the Orville, not that they've said F-bombs, but they probably will once they're on Hulu. The difference is that they've had 50 years of precedent in Star Trek that people don't curse. In the Orville universe, people curse, people use drugs. That they're in a different universe. I don't complain about cursing in The Expanse or cursing in Battlestar Galactica because those are different universes where they always had it. I complain about it in Star Trek because we had not only precedent, we had episodes in movies that basically talked about people not cursing anymore. That it went away with the poverty and all the other problems on Earth. So that's the difference.
right, and here's my response to that, Bird. Okay, in the Star Trek universe, Earth is a virtual utopia. However, the outer planets, the outer systems, like the frontier systems, the colonies, what we've seen is a very small percentage of Federation life. We've always seen life in Starfleet. Now we're seeing civilian life in the Federation. Okay, so there can be room for that in the Star Trek universe. It's just
I would grant you among civilians, yes, but Admiral Clancy was the first one.
But
that was
how would an admiral talk to a civilian that she feels is disgraced Starfleet?
Yeah, and see, I can see it from both sides, but I do want to address this. Cinnamon Bun says, I don't know Rambling Canuck. I tend to be more critical of things that I like and give less things a pass. I do not really like Picard, but give it a lot of passes because I don't really care anymore. And I can see your point, but for me, I just find like you get a lot more some of the criticisms would be praised if they liked the show. It's just the little nuances of the way that you describe something.
And also, you have to remember that the medium that the show is on, it reflects what is said in the shows, because Star Trek has always been on, your average TV station, not a paid subscription service like we have today.
Yeah.
And also, Captain Trek, it might have started on Earth, but that was for like what, two episodes. They've been in space ever since. And I'm talking about the Federation as a whole. Okay, you take what Rafi does. Okay, she's not in the military anymore. You do what Rios is doing. He's not in the military anymore. I'm talking about civilian life in general. I don't care if it's set on Earth or if it's on Rios' starship. We're talking about the civilian aspect of Federation life now. Okay, yes, you had an admiral that dropped the F-bomb, which I thought was a little over the top. But like Vile said, if some civilian just walked in and started whatever conversation with the admiral and they thought they were disrespected, that admiral, I don't care what time period you're in, they're going to tell him to F off.
Picard is not some civilian.
He's retired.
He's not
a civilian.
Civilian. You retired military is still not civilian.
Not only that, he was a civilian who felt entitled because of his old position. That would really piss off your average military person, and I can tell you that from experience.
A war hero, a retired war hero, goes to see an admiral to tell them about a threat to the United States, and the person in command or whatever tells them to fuck off. Really?
Ever heard
I
of
can
General
see it
Petraeus?
today, but it seems hard to believe in Star Trek that should ever happen.
You would, I think you have that idea that Trek has this giant stick up its butt and shouldn't act more human.
No, it shouldn't, because we've been told that it doesn't act like that anymore.
And they've proved again and again that they are still human. That's
Only
the whole
in
point
Picard
that Q
they've
has been
proved
trying to show.
Only in Picard have they proven that.
Deep Space Nine.
They didn't curse.
They may not have cursed, but they showed that the humans are flawed individuals.
Everybody's been flawed. There's differences between flaws and cursing.
And Star
Cursing
Trek,
is something they specifically didn't do.
Star
Oh,
Trek
and
is
foul
always
language isn't a flaw?
Star Trek has been about the
I
human
think it's a
condition,
flaw. No.
the human experience, the human condition. Picard's just taking it in a different aspect, showing different aspects of that.
Well, for me, I think what they should have done is if they wanted to put cursing in it, it would have been okay for Rios to do it. It would have been okay for any member of that crew.
Except Picard. I can understand Picard not doing it because it doesn't fit his character.
Yeah, even Picard is excluded from that sentence. But the Admiral for me came off a little. That was both times it's happened. It's no. But like if it was O, I could maybe see like the O like character who's the person who's infiltrated the Starfleet, but not the CNC. So for me, that didn't land. But the other swearing, that's fine with me because it's not. That's civilian. That's fine. I can accept that. But the CNC, I agree
fine with Rios,
happen.
especially because we see him having cigars and reading paper books and playing vinyl records. So maybe that would make more sense for him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I will grant fine. Maybe people not in Starfleet, it happens more often.
Yeah. But the CNC, that is one of my bones of contention. The other thing I really didn't like that they did with Picard was when Raffi gets them the clearance to go on the cube, and she basically loses her best, like a dear friend of hers, somebody that's been there, through thick, thin, and stupid. And the friend basically says, never contact me again. This is it. And to me, the Picard I know should have been, thank you for what you did for me. And I realized it came at a great cost. Not freaking clapping. That pissed me off. That almost made me give that episode a really bad ranking. But they made up for it with Hugh. But At the same time, that part bothered me. So yes, I do like Picard, but I still have my issues with it. And the room went silent.
Awkward silence. I know.
Yeah,
Well, I can't really say anything other than I kind of agree. Now that you pointed out, it does seem a little bit out of character for old Picard, but I don't know if it is quite out of character for this current iteration of Picard.
For me, I don't know. I think that was one time they were walking a line and they crossed it.
It's quite possible
that they went a little too far they went a little too far left when they should have went right, but it doesn't ruin the whole show for me, but just that part is like, oh no, I hate that, don't do that, stop that.
I don't think it ruins the show. I think what's happening is, since Picard is such an established character, and even though it's been 20 some years since Nemesis, I still think, he's kind of being portrayed as being held up on this pedestal. Just
Yeah,
as an analogy. And that's where people are getting so conflicted with each other about it, is because some people are holding him up on this pedestal. Oh, it's the great mighty Jean-Luc Picard, and other people are like, well, it's a character, it develops over time. Of course, there's going to be changes. So I think
shouldn't
that's
he
why
be on a pedestal? You don't think he should be on a pedestal?
It
No,
depends.
not in universe.
Not in universe. Because you got to remember, he's basically used. I mean, he bluffed. He lost his bluff because the Starfleet called him on his bluff.
How many times do you have to save the planet before you're put on a pedestal?
Okay.
Two,
I'll
three,
give you a real world, Bert. I will give you a real world example. General MacArthur.
he was more BS than anything, and he's still on a pedestal.
I will give
Pretty
you
much.
a real world example.
Is he not on a pedestal? Do you think people don't think of MacArthur on a pedestal?
Not after Korea.
Yeah, but you don't even have to go that far into like military. It's like take any person in the entertainment industry who's everybody thought he was beloved, and then did
Right.
something.
Entertainment don't get pedestals. I'm sorry, not in Karoga.
Yeah, but
Karoga
it's
doesn't
it.
put people in entertainment on pedestals.
I'm just saying. Yeah, but I'm just saying
Unless they
overall,
captains on Star Trek.
there are people who put in society. There are people who put others on pedestals, and then when they do something that they don't agree with, it's like that's the fall from grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, think of it. Think of Bill Cosby right now.
Michael
Should he
Jackson,
be on a pedestal?
Kevin Spacey. Look, these are people who are considered in high regard among their peers, and from the quote unquote common folk who just watch their movies and listen to their music. But then all of a sudden they do something that's highly speculative and wrong. Now all of a sudden everybody's fighting amongst themselves, saying, "Oh, but they're still great. Oh, but they're not. But they're still great. But they're not." It's the same thing for in Picard. It's like some people are going to put him on a pedestal, but
You can have respect for someone's past actions, but not have respect for that person as they are now.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And with Picard in universe, it makes total sense. Absolutely, it does, because he, for all intents and purposes, he walked out. He left the Romulans hanging. He made promises to them that he didn't keep. And then when he gets shut down by the Federation, he goes, "Okay, I'll take my ball and go home."
And not only that, think of it this way. Imagine after 9/11 that we had a military leader saying, "Hey, I know that we just suffered this horrible tragedy, but we need to go help out our Russian allies."
Well, that might not have been that bad at that point.
I disagree because it's like if Russia wasn't, there's a big difference between the end of a Cold War between, but assuming we were still in the Cold War with Russia, but they still suffered a natural disaster.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, you could imagine that military person would be eviscerated by the media.
Oh yeah, the media would have a field day.
And I'm not talking about just left-wing or right-wing media. I'm talking about both sides would have eviscerated him.
Oh yeah, crucified.
And that's what's happening
in the Cold War. At the height of the Cold War, definitely.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, like for me, the way that Picard is being portrayed now actually in universe makes sense. And I actually don't mind that they're taking a couple of notches out of him in the first season. Because I think if they had gone the other way and Picard would have been strong and not taken down a few notches, then I think what we would have ended up with was Michael Burnham II. The only thing you could have argued with was Picard earned it more. But other than that, you would have had Michael Burnham II. And I think that in a way, the writing room wanted to avoid that. And that's why Picard is getting a little bit of an ass kicking in the first season, so that when he does eventually, because we all know at the end of the day, he's going to be proven right.
Yeah. There wouldn't be much of a story if Picard just showed him what's like, hey, this stuff's going on. Then he'd be like, oh yeah, we're going to listen to you.
Yeah. So for me, that's where I resonate with it. It's like, yeah, okay, you take a little bit out of him now, and then you build him up, and then he gets his vindication at the end.
Yeah, there's nothing more than people love more than a fallen hero than a fallen hero that gets back up.
Yeah. Look at Rocky.
And Bird, you were going to say something, but then I interrupted, so go ahead.
No, you didn't interrupt, but I just, how could they prove him right? They've already proven the Romulans were right.
By showing that Soji isn't the destroyer, that the androids actually aren't the going to bring out the end of the world, that they actually end up saving it.
If Soji turns out not to be a destroyer, it's only because he put her in that position. Whereas if the Romulans are just to begin with, then we wouldn't have to worry about it.
Exactly, Picard, Bird. That
wow,
Picard is the one that forces the change. Even know it. Picard is the one that forces the change. That's why he's the hero.
If Picard didn't exist, okay, the Romulans would have got this info from Soji, and they would have obliterated the planet before they had any idea or knew about the abduction, whatever the hell it's called. And they would have eliminated the threat of these synthetic lives from destroying the universe.
Well, I don't know. I haven't watched the last episode.
Well, okay. Well, the last episode kind of confirms the Romulans were right about everything. So it really screws everything up. I don't see how they end this in a way that makes Picard right about anything.
Because I think what they're going for is the old self-fulfilling prophecy, which is don't become what those who accuse you of being something, don't become it.
Right. Don't become that which you have fought so hard to
say you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in a way, I mean, yeah, it speaks to a lot of things that happen in life where, you know, you say you're against one thing and then you end up being that which you despise in the end.
And usually it's through the actions you take to not become that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ironic, but it's usually how it goes.
Yeah. So I have no problem with the way that it's gone. I mean, some of it is a little bit, like I did not like the Orchids of Doom. Oh, I guess I shouldn't have said that because you haven't seen the last episode. But yeah, that part I didn't care for. But I mean, there are bits and pieces that I don't care for. but at the same time, overall, I still enjoy the show, and overall, I enjoy the story that's being told.
I'll grant you the story isn't terrible, and as much as I might have disliked the last couple episodes, I still look forward to the season finale. And I'd watch it now if I could, which is not something I could say about Discovery. I did not look forward to the next episode. So in that respect, it is far tighter story. And even if there are flaws with it with track canon, it is it's a good story to watch so far. We'll see how it ends.
I'll admit, watching Discovery was like dying by a death of 1,000 cuts all in one episode every time I watched it. But it's Star Trek, so I need to watch it because it's Star Trek, and that hope is there that maybe it'll get better, and it did in season 2 a little bit.
See, yeah, I never watched season 1. I just went right into season 2 because I was just like, I don't want to be biased on, because I think sometimes it's just I get biased on what other people's reviews are.
Right.
Yeah, well,
And then I took a look at a couple of clips of the show and I was like, yeah, they're right about this and that. So I just skipped it and went right to season 2. And even with season 2 was every episode was, well, maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll get better. And I was every episode was like meh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I checked out at season 1.
See,
I watched the full season 1, and I went, okay, nope, checkout time. But now I might actually go back and watch season 2, but I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But
season 2 was better.
Season
Well,
1.
the only way I can watch Discovery is if in my head canon it's not prime timeline. I can actually enjoy it a little bit if I think of it as its own Star Trek universe.
It would make a lot more sense if it was.
Yeah.
That's sure.
If it was his own show that had just a show, not tied into Star Trek at all, nobody would have a problem.
I'd still have a problem with it. I would.
Not as much. Would you, Bird?
Yeah, because I mean, even forgetting the Star Trek, tie-in, just season 2. It started, there were 7 signals. They saw them all across the galaxy. An episode later, they don't know where the signals are, and they have to wait for them to happen. So that's complete nonsense.
That's called writing errors.
There's it's absolutely your DNA, Michael Burnham. And the next episode, it could be your mother's DNA.
Yeah.
And then the next episode, it was yours all along, huh?
I didn't say it didn't still have problems.
Those are terrible problems.
Well, Bird, you forget they forgot all about mitochondrial DNA, which is how they prove parentage in a DNA test. They seem to have forgot about that.
I mean, you would think he would know if he was testing cellular DNA or mitochondrial DNA. But I guess he's like, whatever, I'll just test DNA.
We'll just wing it. But no, so for me, I checked out at season 1. But I mean, I don't know. To me, Picard is getting a lot more flack than it deserves, in my opinion. The only one thing that I'll say that I majorly disagree with, and maybe it's just because I haven't played the game, is the whole Mass Effect tie-in. And even if it does have the tie-in, it doesn't bother me as much because, in my opinion, I look around at different shows, different genres, and it's like, well, okay, tell me what show doesn't have doesn't have sprinklings of this, sprinklings of that, because so much has already been done. I mean, at this point, can you really create a show from start to finish and it not feel like something else?
Oh,
well, my only contention with that is the fact that artificial life has literally been something in Star Trek since the first season of the original series. Yeah. And it's never been an issue until now.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole costume thing in Picard. It's like they were doing costumes in TOS. it's nothing new.
Yeah.
But I mean, like for me, that whole argument, I just shake my head because it's like, well, just okay, tell me a show that you can watch from start to finish, and it's not going to feel like something else that we've seen.
Well, nothing, but to me, it's a little bit more egregious because maybe I am such a Mass Effect fan.
Yeah, because I mean, like, good example, the Orville. I love that intro, but I've seen that before.
Well, yeah.
I mean, like, let's call a spade, right? I mean, I love that intro, but I've seen it before.
Maybe it's because the intro to Orville definitely seems like homage. The entire show seems like an homage. The Reaper thing from Mass Effect in Picard almost seems like a ripoff.
See, and that's, to me, I think it has to do, again, by perspective. Because I find if somebody really, really, really likes something, they'll be more easier to say that it's an homage, tip of the hat, love letter to. Whereas if you have the same aspect in another show that they don't really like as much, then it becomes, it's a ripoff. They're hacks. They're just repeating something that's been done already. And it also has to do a lot with how much you liked that thing that they're paying homage to.
And I could be completely biased on that. But the thing is, I still enjoy Picard.
Yeah. But for me, that's my contention on it. On that argument it's well, okay, but in what world do we have, like, I love the horror film genre, but I mean, seriously, if you get right down to the meat and bones of this, really, we haven't had an original horror film that you can't sit there and by about 5 minutes in go, okay, so that one's dying, that one's gonna die, and this is how this story is gonna end, because it's been done already. It's just different characters with a little bit of a different storyline, but we're getting to the same station at the end of the day.
And hello, Joseph. If Joseph wants to come up, I'll back out for a little bit.
Hey,
Actually, I need to head out anyway for work. So if Joseph wants to come up and take my spot, he can go ahead and do it.
hey, well, thank you very much, Val, for jumping in when you could. I greatly appreciate it.
I probably should have left actually about half an hour ago.
Procrastinator.
We'll just blame sci-fi. We do it all the time.
Yeah,
And
it's
damn you,
Rambler's
sci-fi.
channel, but blame me.
Yeah.
Damn sci-fi and damn maps that aren't to scale.
I know, right? What the hell?
There
All
you
right.
go.
Later, guys.
All right,
Later.
have a great day, Lyle. But like you were saying, it's how much originality is there anywhere?
Yeah. I mean, like, for me, I look at it and I look at that beginning of Orville, that intro. I love it. It's well done. It's great. The ship porn is awesome. The music fits it. It's great. But I've seen it before.
It's
Yeah.
like it's almost like a Voyager DS9 type
Voyager TNG.
intro rolled into one.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
Voyager TNG.
really, I got Voyager DS9, but
Voyager TNG. Because they do the same, especially right at the end when the Orville's quantum drive lights up, and then
yeah,
they,
that's TNG.
no, well, that's TNG and Voyager. Because right at the end of Voyager's intro, Voyager's engines come up, they glow, and it goes into warp. Right, so it's the same aesthetic. And it gives you that member berry, but
Then again, what other sci-fi show hasn't shown a ship doing that?
Yeah, exactly.
type of engines? So.
yeah. So it's just, for me, it just that argument falls apart because I look at it like, okay, well, tell me a show that doesn't do that.
And you can't say it's specific to Star Trek because they didn't even do it in TOS or the movies. Heck, they didn't even show the Excelsior doing that when it was chasing the Enterprise. You know, that didn't come about. The Excelsior really wasn't lit like that until TNG.
Yeah, but again, it just for me that argument is one of the weakest arguments I have that I hear, because for me it just seems like, you know, yeah, and your point.
Well, that's a lot of times people just react. Your emotional response is going to kick in first. You're going to be like, "Well, that's not the way it's supposed to be," but you don't take the time to actually think about it. So that's why you have a lot of people arguing. They're going to be like, "Well, that's not supposed to be. It wasn't like this ever."
Yeah, and then
it's-
you go, well, what about here?
And but that's that. Like you said, that's why you appreciate going back and seeing like everybody else's reviews. They'll put out a review, and with their points and their arguments, which I appreciate because it'll make me think about my biases when I'm watching the show, and it's like, oh, okay, I understand where they're coming from on that, whether I agree with it or not.
Yeah,
I appreciate everybody's reviews out there, because
yeah.
over time, because it's like everybody's going to bash on Picard now. How are they going to think about it in like 2 years from now, 5 years from now? Is it going to get put up on a pedestal also because it was a Star Trek show?
Or it's better than what's on TV now.
Yeah,
Star Wars is a great example.
exactly.
The prequels. They're getting lots of love now.
It still doesn't get that much love from me.
No, but I mean, like,
But compared to what we've had with the last three, it's like, oh yeah, people will be like,
yeah, it's
They'll
getting
jump-
lots of love now.
It's like they're making stuff worse and worse so that people will like the old stuff.
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
people will jump through flaming hoops just to get back to the prequels.
Yeah, but so it to me it's very subjective, and really everybody sees things through their life experience. Like I'll give you a prime example. In Picard, there's that I can't was it 2 episodes ago? When they find out when they confront Dr. Girardi for killing Maddox. And they're kind of between Rios and her, the tensions are starting to rise a little bit. And then Raffi gets up because Rios shoots her a look. Raffi gets up and she goes, well, you come with me, and Auntie Raffi will take care of you. Everybody immediately went to the drug thing, and yes, it was implied, but for me it landed different. Because when I used to go to my grandmother's and my aunt's out in Saskatchewan, I had out there 5 other cousins, and we didn't always see eye to eye. And when things would get really heated, whoever was the most pissed out of the whoever was arguing would get politely, maneuvered away. So before it got out of hand, my grandmother, or if my aunt was in the room, would be like, Rob, come with me for a second. I need your help with something. Or grandma would pull you aside, and you'd go to grandma's to the farm, and you'd have ice cream with grandma, and grandma would talk. So I hear you and Julian had an argument today. What was it all about? Right? So for me, it landed different. I didn't immediately go to the drug thing. I looked at it more as, okay, she's getting her away and letting things settle down. That's how I looked at it, but that was just because it triggered a memory in me.
To me, it was more of the person at the party that was being a little weird, or the one that was down and depressed, or like you said, maybe the one that was causing a little bit of trouble, and somebody would say, hey, come over here for a little bit,
Yeah. Come over here. I'll take care of you. We'll get through this. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how that landed to me. But I also, on the flip side, I can also see it the other way.
Yeah, it's like, here, smoke a joint, chill the F out. And
yeah. So for me, it landed different.
Yeah, well, for Raffi, it was, everybody went on the drug thing because, they don't do drugs in the future. But I'm like, it's her escape. That's how I looked at it. That's a way for her to get away from things.
And
Right,
Barclays
and-
and
And,
Holiday.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Barkley and the holodeck.
And like we've only seen a small percentage of Federation life. How do you know all these other colony worlds and member worlds don't do that? You know, so we know of Earth and Starfleet basically.
And to be fair, I mean, let's be honest, and I could be wrong. Number one sci-fi could probably answer this question for me better than anybody else because he's been in the military. But what flies on a flagship and what flies on your common ship are probably two separate things. And it
Yeah,
probably also has a lot to do with who's in command.
yeah. I mean, each CO I've had has been different, and you gotta get used to their style, and that goes with both the senior officer and the commanding officer, and your senior enlisted person, who's usually a master chief. They each have an expectation of how they want things to be done, and if you don't measure up to that expectation, you're going to pretty much be ignored.
Yeah, like a ship that's, in the public eye all the time is going to have one set of standards. And then the ship that nobody really, pays any attention to, they're going to be able to relax a little bit more than the ship that, if something happens on it, you're screwed.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say you can relax more, because really, a smaller ship, the enemy is going to go after probably more than a bigger one.
Yeah.
Just because they figure, okay, that's a smaller ship, we could probably take that on. That's why the Co, which was a small destroyer, was bombed, because of that fact itself, that they thought, hey, this is a ship that's just a destroyer, so we can sneak up on it easier. And they were right,
Yeah.
So,
I just want to say, sorry, I just want to step in here for a quick second. Thank you, Sci-Fi, for throwing the link in. Carry on, number one.
yeah. So, and that's the thing, until you actually see it, and I would see all these little boats trying to get as close as they could to us before we would start laying down fire to make them turn around. And that's what they'll do. They'll test you to see how close they can get before you start firing on them.
Yeah. No, and I get that, and a lot of it has to do with the commander that's in charge. Like I'm pretty sure you have some of the white glovers, and
Yes.
some of them that aren't white glovers.
Yeah, the first Master Chief, who was the head of the medical department on the Sherman, yeah, he was very much a white glover. And it was by the book. You had to do everything the military way.
Yeah.
And some people are a little bit more lax on that. But still, you got to accomplish things the right way, no matter what. Because on a ship, it makes a big difference if someone's a slacker versus someone actually putting in the work, basically.
Yeah, and I'll grant you that. I'm just saying that to expect every ship to be run the same.
Oh no!
Is not going to happen.
Oh no! Yeah, there's always. And it depends on the ship too, because I was on two different ones, so yeah, I have a unique perspective, because a carrier is basically nonstop, always launching planes, planes always landing. You're always doing exercises, pretty much, versus the amphibious ship I was on. Not as much, because obviously the Marines are going to just be doing their own thing that we had on board the amphibious ship. But otherwise, it is a total 180 difference.
Yeah. So for me, I would expect that to be the same in Starfleet. Your flagship is going to have, one set of, standards, because it's the flagship, and then your Nebula class that's out in the middle of buttfuck nowhere have another.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could say. Look at the different styles of each captain on each ship that we've seen so far. You had Captain Kirk, who did he wanted to be a part of everything, okay? And only in Next Generation did they change where, okay, maybe the captain should stay on the ship and the first officer should actually be going on the away teams primarily.
Yeah.
They did explain that in dialogue, though, in a
Yeah.
couple of shows. They said Kirk would never make it as a Starfleet officer in the TNG era because he was too much of a cowboy, fly by the seat of his pants, shoot first, ask questions later. But you got to remember, it was a whole different ball game back then too. So.
Yeah, it was more of a war time, even though they weren't at war. War was considered very close to occurring in the TOS era versus the TNG area, where it's everybody's buddies now almost. You have your war factions, but at least you got an ally you can rely on to take care of them, basically.
Yeah,
right. That's like comparing it to 1940s or compared to even 20 years ago up till now. It's not even the same. A commander back then might not cut it as a commander today because they had a little bit more leeway back then.
Well, Patton wouldn't fly in today's military.
He barely flew back
in
then.
their military.
Are we sure that Starfleet is military? Hello, gentlemen.
Well, Starfleet, is military to an extent. It's not so much in TNG as compared to, I guess. Well, I mean, I guess the military that they allude to mainly is the secret part, the Section 31 part. Unfortunately,
I think the original idea somewhere with Gene Roddenberry was to position the Starfleet on the level as NASA is.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, where everybody's kind of all the same in a way.
I think Enterprise did it right though, where they had the Makos, which were the military element of Starfleet, but unfortunately, it's kind of like the Marines and the Navy. Okay, the Makos depended on Starfleet to get them to where they had to go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back. I just just talk amongst yourselves. I gotta Jaloja.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, the Marines might think that they're special, but they are under the Navy, whether they like it or not.
Under the Department of the Navy, but it's that old running joke, Navy's just there to give us a ride to where we got to go.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, believe me, they are tough ass people. They will scream at, because just going through the Marine aspect of when I had to go to train as a Fleet Marine Corpsman, and that's with the Marines. Yeah, they will yell your head off, make you run through freaking ditches and all this other mess. And
you're preaching to the choir. I never served, but my dad was in for 20 years as a Marine, so trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's nonstop. If they're not yelling at you, you're probably not doing something right. You could be doing something right and know you no matter what. But
it's so no difference to a marriage, right?
Well, I mean, if your marriage is like that, I guess so. But if you have your wife constantly yelling at you in your marriage, I don't know if that's a great marriage, but whatever.
Whatever floats your boat, dude.
Happy wife, happy life. Happy Marine, happy life.
Yeah. But
I'm just joking.
Yeah. No, I know. Boy. But I mean, it's the military is not for everybody, and I think in a way now the way Picard is, they're saying almost like, hey, Starfleet's not for everybody either. Okay, and that's why you got to kind of do your cowboy thing like Picard is doing now, doing everything on your own with.
Which I think is completely okay, saying that Starfleet is not for everybody. Starfleet should be for the elite.
And it is.
with
I mean, if you look at
with
the
their
history of,
science divisions, with their division for everything, they should really be like a Mensa for I don't know, officers, scientists. Yeah. What's the noise in the background? Somebody's watching TV.
not Ryan Johnson's TV, I was hearing.
I think I have to keep muting and unmuting. My son's listening to had something on his iPad.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think I agree with Joseph. And number one, you know, it's whether it's a non-military, military type organized organization such as Starfleet or the military, you know, it's only for certain people, and that's why, you know, like the U.S., it's a completely voluntary system that we have for the military. Like I know in Russia, it's mandatory 2 years for everybody to serve, and Israel has something.
Israel has
mandatory
exactly
years.
mandatory. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
mandatory service. But here in the U.S.,
South Korea.
it's completely voluntary here in the U.S. unless there's a draft, which we haven't had since Vietnam, fortunately. But yeah, I mean, it's if you want to do it, if you can pass the training, then go for it. If you don't want to do it, then that's your choice as well. You know.
Yeah. Okay. So, Bird, you were gonna say something?
No, I just added Switzerland. I think also has mandatory.
Yes, Switzerland has mandatory. Yes, exactly. They have as well military service for some time. We used to have it here as well in the up in the middle of 90s. It was for 2 years. Then they shortened it to 1 year, then to 6 months, and then they made it completely voluntary.
Well, like for me, the one that threw me for a loop was back when I worked security. One of our guards was here on a work visa from South Korea, and he still he told me, because every time that North Korea and South Korea would be getting really, really heated up, he'd start panicking. And for the longest time, we could never figure out why. And then one day we were sitting in the break room, and the topic came up, and I said, "Well, you're here now." I said, "I understand, your family are there, but at least you're not there at this time." He says, "Yeah, but here's the problem. If they go to war, I have to go home.
Yes,
I have to go back to my rank, and because I'm a sniper, I have to go back."
You are in the you are there in the active. How do you call it? Active reserve.
Yeah.
Or something like this, and you are enlisted until you turn. It's usually around 40, between 40 and 45. It can be.
Yeah.
So
when things would heat up in that area, he'd always be walking on eggshells, because if it breaks out, he has to go home. No matter what he's doing here, he has to go home.
Yeah. Otherwise, he's facing jail time. I was laughing pretty hard right now with now the K-pop group. What's their name? BTS. They are so famous right now around the world, and all the boys are in the age that they should be drafted to the in the army. So they are now in a process of getting some kind of exemption. Not to be drafted right now, but they need to serve in the army as well at some time. So it's pretty harsh.
That sounds like rich people trying to get out of service.
It's because they are they are requesting the status of an cultural ambassador or something like this.
Well, you can still serve it and do that. I mean, heck, look at Elvis served. We had I don't know how many celebrities serving during World War II. Just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean you can't do it.
No, it's just it's not coming from the boys. It's coming from the company that is where they are under contract. because they are bringing in millions and millions of dollars for
Right.
them
They just
right
want to
now.
keep their paycheck flowing. That's all.
Yeah, exactly, because the guys they have almost no money from it. I watched a documentary about how the groups are basically put together in South Korea, and it's basically a factory. It's a factory where they are selected from thousands and thousands, and then they are put in a group. They go undergo a rigorous training in like physical training, dancing, singing, and public appearance.
Well, you know, the
So
U.S. had a thing like that back in the '90s. It was the boy band craze.
yeah, exactly. But as well in the US, I think some of the groups, or at least some members of them of those groups went to court because of the harsh practices.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so it changed, and it's now as well changing in South Korea because of the same reasons. There are some certain members that they are suing them because you get like a contract for, let's say, 10 years, and you need to produce how many albums, and at the end you are there without money.
And another way the U.S. record companies were really screwing over the artists were the artists were only getting a tiny fraction of the record sales. So the only way the artists in the U.S. and I think even to this day is, well, now we have the internet, so they can make money, much more money that way. But back then, before the internet was even really a thing, the only way they could make their money was off merchandising and doing
Yes.
concerts
and lives, yeah, because usually live concerts, because usually exactly most of the profit from the sales went to the publisher.
Yep.
That's the thing. But it's up till today, especially when they sign you up for a contract. Usually, but now I think it's limited, something like 3 albums up to, I don't know, 7 years or something like this, which is usually the most profitable time for every artist, because they just come
the
and
first
go.
few years, yeah. But
Yeah,
back in the day, it was like, yeah, like you were saying, 10-year contracts. You
Yeah.
needed 1 album a year.
Yeah.
It takes you what, 2 months to record an album, unless you're Motley Crue. You go in and do a bunch of coke, and then
I think it started to show up with I think George Michael had this kind of contract with Sony, so he and it was somehow limited to certain amount of albums, so that's why he produced so little albums in the early 90s.
Yep.
And only as his contract with Sony ended, he released like album with 5 or 6 songs, and that was it. And then only after his contract ran out, he was able to publish what he wanted under the conditions that he wanted for himself.
Right, and what a lot of artists need to put in their contracts, and it's a well-known thing now, but back then it wasn't. They have to make sure they put in the contract that they own the rights to their music.
Yes, exactly, because there is even the split, which when you are the author of the song, you are recognized, but as the author, but not necessary. But it's not necessary that you get the money.
You don't own it. Yeah, if you don't own it, then you don't get the money.
you have the
you get a percentage, but
yeah, you get like percentages from the sales. You own the song, but you get only percentages from the studios. Yeah. I think now the contracts are a little bit different. I know that the contracts from all the TV shows like Voice or all the talent shows that are on TV, that those contracts are pretty harsh as well.
Oh yeah.
But that's completely understandable, because if you are nobody from the street, they need to put a huge amount of money into you, and they want the money, of course, back and earn on you.
Oh right, they take you off the street and put you on national television, and you blow up overnight. Well, yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be nowhere. So I
exactly.
Kind of, that way. But
so the some parts of the business model I completely understand, but if it goes like there used to be contracts like 25-year contract with one studio, and you had to publish every 2 years an album or something like this. That was pretty harsh.
And then you had millions and millions of fans all over the world, but you're sitting there, you know, you can hardly afford a new car every few years. It's like,
Well,
gotta give.
to move away from music, another one that has come under the spotlight over the last few years is college football. Once they make it to the NFL, then they're making money hand over fist. But in their college,
they already want to start paying college kids.
Yeah.
There's a big controversy over it.
but because they make millions off that.
They do. The colleges do. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like the money is there. It's just the actual players themselves don't see any of it.
There has been scandals where these colleges have been caught giving these kids brand new cars, this, that, and a third, to get them to play for them.
Yep,
which is illegal.
Yes, it is. But so you can make that same comparison in that respect as well, because I mean, once they hit the NFL or the CFL, whichever one they land,
it's open season then. But
then all that time and effort is, but you see these guys every week on TV in college, and they're people are making a boat ton of money off of them, but them themselves, they're not.
Not like I said, not unless a college is giving them shit.
Yeah, which they're not allowed to do.
Which they're not allowed to do, obviously. But it has happened, and then I don't doubt that it's still happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe not in the form of brand new cars, but here's an envelope full of cash, put it somewhere, and don't spend it all in one place.
Yeah,
type of thing.
Yeah. Come play for the state of Alabama. Come on, we need another ring. Stuff like that.
Roll Tide.
Yeah. So it still does happen, and it's not just exclusive to the music industry.
Yes, Kronos. A boat ton is a crap load.
My wife is once again spending money. she now installed Apple TV on her notebook, and now she's trying to get some titles from it. Yeah.
Schomer said the entry to the academy was one per planet. It was an elite organization until they let Wesley in, that is, and he's laughing. But see, I never understood how can you get that many candidates in a class for the academy, and most of them are human, right? But it's only one per planet. I never understood that. Plus, what type of training do the enlisted go through? Like O'Brien. He wasn't an officer, but he still had to have training. It's not like to just stick him on a starship and say, here, sweep the deck and learn this. Did they have like boot camp for the crewmen? Or I guess that never got addressed in canon. It's something I always wondered about.
I think he had some basic training. And I think there is something... the video that on Anti-Tracker, who was it? Our submariner, was it? Yeah, Darren. He created. He made a perfect video about it.
Yeah,
how it works in the U.S. Navy, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I've watched a ton of documentaries on that. I'm just talking like for Starfleet. I mean, I don't know if he compares it to that, but.
Yes. He draws parallels there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He draws parallels there, and it looks interesting. Yeah. That O'Brien, he couldn't. I think they cannot then reach certain ranks
without a battlefield promotion. Probably
without probably a battlefield promotion or something like this. But they can jump functions similar to O'Brien. Like he was on the bridge as a bridge officer. He was transporter chief. Then he was chief of operations on DS9. So multiple functions because of this, how he was specialized.
If you remember in the episode, the Pegasus and TNG, when they were chasing down, I forget the captain's name, but the captain of the Phoenix,
Yeah,
that he served under on the Rutledge, he said back then he was just a soldier. He was a ground, just regular dude, and he had to learn how to fix a transporter in less than 10 minutes or they were all going to get killed. And he said that's the first time he had anything to do with engineering. So I always thought that was kind of interesting.
But then they kind of retconned and that he was always building things as a kid.
yes.
Yeah, it's a little unclear which his real history was. And then after all that, he does go home and teach at the academy at the end of DS9.
Right. And, there is military precedence for that. Just because you're not an officer doesn't mean you can't go and teach. Like, well, I don't know if, DIs can go into, the officers' academy, but that's what they made it out to sound like what he did. So.
I think Kelly McGillis in Top Gun, was a good example for this.
Oh, the girl, the blonde.
Yeah. She was as well as an enlisted.
Oh, okay, yeah, she did, didn't
there, and she was delivering some courses for them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, at the Top Gun school. Yep.
Wasn't Roddenberry in the military himself or the Marines?
Yes,
he was. He was pilot.
He was also an LA.
Okay, go ahead, Bird. You kind of got talked over there.
So I just said he should know how it works. So should have known.
Yeah, you once you've done it, you kind of should have a good idea, and maybe that's why. Maybe he had a bad experience. That's why he's trying to go away from military.
No, as I thought, as I said, that I think he meant it to do it like NASA was, because when you go to the 60s, when he created Star Trek, NASA was there as a civilian organization, but all of the pilots and everybody there, those were military pilots, and from the Apollo program, the only who wasn't in military was actually Neil Armstrong, who was a test pilot, but he wasn't military.
Yeah.
No, yeah, he came from one of the aircraft corporations.
Yes, so that's how I think everything was built upon as an idea, but still, when you look at Starfleet, Picard can claim that they are not military, but they have captains, they have admirals, they have first officers, they have
that's what I'm
lieutenants.
saying. It's got a military structure to it, but it's quote unquote not military, which is, I don't know how.
Which is odd.
It's very odd.
Yeah.
That's not chocolate ice cream. It's brown ice cream. Just looks and tastes like chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It came from a brown cow.
Yeah. It's not chocolate.
So that's probably how it came down to it.
So let's ask an interesting question, because I think we'll get a lot of different answers. Let's go on the theory of not what you think is going to happen in episode 10, rather what you'd like to see happen. And we'll start with number 1.
Like to see, I guess, lore being revealed at the very end, I guess, which is what it seems to be the direction it's going. Otherwise, obviously, Picard's going to convince Soji to not destroy all life with one of his usual speeches of whatever. And the Romulans the Federation fleet will show up to destroy all the Romulans, except for conveniently Narissa and Commander O will somehow get away, and Narek
Okay.
as well, obviously.
All right. Fair enough. Bird of prey.
So what I want to happen, not what I think is going to
Yeah,
happen.
not what you think is going to happen, but
Okay,
what
I
you
want-
want to happen.
I want Soji to try to stop him but fail. I want the robots, synthetic lives, to come through and start destroying everything. And I want Q to appear, shake his head, say he's so disappointed in Picard for letting this happen, but no, they've been planning for this. And he snaps his fingers, and we get some more Qs show up, and they just battle the synthetics back into their dimension. And Q says, well, John Luke, we're going to be busy for a few eons. Guess this is goodbye. And then he blinks out of existence.
That would be kind of cool. Yosef?
The problem is they destroyed everything where I wanted to go with the show. When you go back to the Borg cube in the beginning of the show, and they were talking about your gray badges turn into green or whatever, when they start to glow or what they said, just run. Yeah, I was really hoping that the Borg will become somehow the villains of the show, which we didn't have. Where we are at right now at this point, I strongly hope that the Sung character is in reality lore. That and what I would like to see is Picard failing in his whole attempt to save the synthetic lives, and understanding that they are really evil, and something that would go into the direction that by fighting the synthetics, Romulans and the Federation become friends.
Okay. Not Ryan Johnson.
What do I want? I just want a good story, a good ending. I was everything like what Joseph said about the Borg. I wanted, never happened. It's just like they were just like, oh, we'll just throw them in and that's it, and then we'll just be done with it. I don't know if I want to see Picard fail, but I want to see him not completely get what he wants.
Okay. So kind of a victory, but a hollow one.
Yeah, a hollow
That'd be
victory.
fair?
I think that would be for me, that would be better.
Yeah, but just to understand that not every fight that he was fighting is the right one. That he is not the guy who is always right.
Yeah,
Okay. That's fair enough.
and I would like to see lore in like
Okay.
the last one.
Okay.
And if they're gonna play around with the whole synth destroyer thing, they have to bring it in. You can't just mention it and then be like, oh, we stopped them. They have to get like a foot on the ground.
Okay.
Other than
Sci-fi.
that, that's it.
Well, it's interesting you guys are bringing up lore. I've only seen the last episode a couple times, and when Dr. Soong first meets Picard, he says it's like seeing an old face again, and it's Cinnabon, you're going to ruin it for me here. But I think maybe, just maybe, if you look at the way the new synths, the way their skin looks, the way their eyes look, that maybe Dr. Soong is lore. And if I remember right from watching the episode, he didn't use any contractions.
He did.
Did he?
He used contractions. But what he said is.
Oh, that's right. Lore did use contractions. I got confused for a minute.
Yeah, but what Dr. Soong said as a sentence, which was very interesting, that Soong has had him, and then created data.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is the order that lore was created before data.
Hmm. Exactly.
So I'm thinking that maybe the Dr. Sung that we saw is actually lore.
Yes.
And
yes.
if you look at lore's past, he just has a fascination of wiping out humans wherever he's at.
Yes.
Because he did it with the crystalline entity.
And the Borg.
And look at his actions towards the end of the episode where he put Picard into isolation. He wanted these higher synths to come and destroy all life. Now, what kind of human being would say destroy all life? Well, that would be you too, wouldn't it, Dr. Sung, if you're a human? So, to me, I think lore is that. And
he thinks he's going to transfer to a synth body before they cut there.
well, maybe he's just making a nuisance body. Maybe because we already know that the Dr. Sung that created lore and data made it to where androids can age and die. And maybe somehow that got activated in lore when he changed his appearance.
Well, he didn't say die. He said age. In fact, Soon basically said, we're all going to die. And he looked at Data and he said, well, some of us.
Right, but if you look at the episode with Data's mother, which was an android, which it was Data's mom's consciousness in that body, which would go to say, okay, it's already established that you can transfer human consciousness into an android body.
Right. But I think they specifically mentioned that she was going to die. He programmed in her to have a nice...
Exactly.
life.
It's programmed in. And what I'm saying is if lore, by him changing his aesthetics, that triggered something in his positronic matrix to activate that subset of...
I'm just saying, I don't think Laura or Data were ever programmed to die. I think only the mother was.
Right. I'm not saying that they were initially, but if they were ever to figure out how to make themselves a human, then that would trigger that program.
I don't think programs work that way.
Okay, so anything else you'd like to see in the final episode? And then
I would like to see the fleet from Deep Space 12 get resolved. See if they show up. Regardless of what they do, I'd like to see that get tied in. And also, everybody's saying, "Oh, the Borg got ejected into space off the cube. They were dead." No, they were not dead. They were activated before they went out into space. We know from on-screen canon they can survive in space. First contact. So I'd like to see that resolved.
Okay.
But if they didn't eat enough chili and beans, they have no propulsion. That's the problem.
Use the force.
They're
wrong
just
show.
floating there. The thing is, everybody answered? Because I have a question as well.
I've yet to go, but you can ask your question first.
Who do you want to die?
Okay, well, we'll go around and then I'll give my final thoughts, and then I think we'll wrap it up because we've been going for about 2 hours, and 2 hours is a pretty good length for a stream. So, number one, sci-fi. You can answer that, and then we'll go around the docket.
What was the question again?
Who do you want? If one character has to die in episode 10, who is it?
Girardi.
Girardi. Okay, Bird.
Sutra.
Yosef, you asked the question.
Yep, Girardi. Agree.
Girardi. Okay, not Ryan Johnson.
Probably Sutra.
Okay. Sci-fi.
I would have said Girardi, but the Federation has laws pertaining to her crime, and the death penalty is not one of the penalties for her crime. So with that said, I'd like to see Sutra die because she just reminds me of female lore.
She's the bad guy. She got to go.
Yeah, she's going to go anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, I'll answer that.
Wait. Can I make one more change? Can I change my answer?
Sure, Bird.
even though it's Star Trek Picard, I want to see Michael Burnham die.
But you got to wait about 1,500 years for this.
Opening sequences of season 3, episode 1. Right?
Pretty much.
Instantly better season. Okay, so for me, yeah, the female, she's got to go. Mrs. Off Color Face got to go. And it's got to be Soji that does it. I'll add that little caveat. For me, what I want to see in episode 10 is, one, I want the lore reveal, because the more I watched episode 9 and just the way that Sung acts, it comes across like this is lore. Oh, this is lore.
That's the
It's
exact
bloody lore.
That's
But-
freaking lore.
By the third time I watched that episode, that is so lore. Because if you think about it, Lore has always been jealous of Data, right? His ego has always been there because he's got the emotion chip. Now, you look around him. They're creating synths that are technologically better than him. So for him to want a new body makes total sense to me. Because then he'd finally be better than Data. He'd finally have that one up on Data, other than having the emotion chip. He'd be better. He would achieve what Data could not.
Can I just say something to Bird real
Sure.
quick? He said something about programs don't work that way. Well, and I know you're an engineer, Bird, so I'm not trying to compete with your intelligence on that, obviously. But there are certain programs where if you trigger a certain subroutine, it will cause a program to act in a completely, different manner than what it had always done before. And considering the level of technology of Data and Lore, it's not hard to that much of a supposition to say, well, that was in there. It just had to be triggered. Especially if you look at the it's not quite the same thing, but like the homing beacon thing in the episode Brothers. I mean, one little command and memory block went up and they got to wherever Dr. Sung was. So I'm saying it's not out of the realm of possibility that when Lore decided to change his aesthetics, that it activated that aging process, and therefore he needs a new synth body, which goes into what Rambling said, which I agree with. He's trying to get into a new synth body.
Well, obviously nothing's impossible. It just seems weird to me that he would program in a death routine if he never intended them to die. I mean, it's like saying, I could accidentally trigger on a 747 a program to make it pull up to a gas pump and fill itself up with gas from a civilian gas station. Why would anybody code that into a computer that's going into a 747?
Yeah.
That's what doesn't make sense to me. Is it possible? Yeah. Maybe they use the same chip for their 747s and their, trucks.
Maybe unexpected subfunction of the emotion chip.
Yeah, like a side effect type.
Side effect
okay.
of the chip. Yeah.
I think Ramblin said it best, though. It's probably the more plausible thing they're going to go with is he just wants to be better than Data, so he's going to a synth body.
Yeah, well, he's always wanted that. He's always wanted. Okay, go ahead, Bert.
So I honestly don't think he thinks synth bodies are better than him, and I don't think they are. I mean, in the episode Descent, they were saying, that, and even in the Borg Queen, in someone in First Contact, was that Data is more what they aspired to be, machines. Like going to biological is actually a step backwards. Soji was far more fragile than Data. And Dodge was more fragile than Data. I don't.
She got vaporized.
For the AIs,
For the Data.
for the AIs coming, I don't think that they need them to be biological AIs. I just think they needed them to be AIs.
I agree with you, Bird. But if you think about it on this, within the the universe, Data always wanted to be what?
Human.
What do the new synths have that both Lore and Data did not? The ability to appear and the ability to mingle within humans, even by medical scan, and be that much closer to being human. So he'd finally achieve what Data tried to, but could not.
And
that
another
would give
thing.
him
Oh, sorry, rambling.
And that would give him that one up on his brother, and he'd finally be better than Data in his mind, because he's always had that conflict that he's lesser than Data. Always. That's always been Lore's hang up, is he's lesser than Data. No matter how much he tried to, Data, I will teach you, I will show you. He was always jealous of Data. When it came to Sun, when it came to anything, Lore was always jealous of Data. So for Lore to be able to achieve what his brother could not, he'd have the last laugh. And that's the way I look at it.
I was gonna say, just to go into a Borg tie-in, and this is just speculation, but we've all seen the movie, so we know what and Voyager, so we know what the Queen has said, about Data, an imperfect android, blah blah blah. They're seeking perfection. We all know the storyline about that. So these synth bodies, would they not be the perfect evolution for Borg?
Aww, sassy.
Sassy.
And then the other thing that I'd like to see is not only that Lore get the reveal, I'd like for them to achieve be able to bring them in, but have to stop them. I want that Federation fleet bad.
Right, from Deep Space 12. Yeah, that's why I said I want that to be resolved.
I want to see Captain Crandall. Otherwise, that entire episode, the hints of Crandall, if he never shows up, what the hell was the point?
They mentioned
him like 50 times.
I could see that being answered right near the end, and that'll be part of the cliffhanger for season 2. If they did it right, everything looks lost, even with the fleet arriving. And let's say, just by knock on wood, they actually do side with Picard, even temporarily. That the one who comes in and either A, grabs Picard and crew and saves them, in other words, warps away and retreat, because I could actually see them doing that. I could actually see the battle not being won or lost, and it carrying over to season 2. Everything looks bleak. A ship warps in. Captain Crandall and Riker are on that ship. They beam out Picard and crew and warp away, fade to black. I could see them do that, and that wouldn't be too bad. I also wouldn't mind if this the battle of the synths is what carries over to season 2,
with Picard dying, or Picard being on life support or something.
I actually think by the end of season 2, Picard will pass.
I think
season 2 or season 3, but by the end of this, I think this is his last hurrah.
I think that's where the unresolved issue of the Borg in space might come in, because if they see Picard, which even the ones that were no longer connected to the collective looked right at him and said Locutus, if they somehow get a ship and assimilate it, which we already know that they can do quite easily, and they come, because they're still disconnected from the collective. So if they figure out what was happening and show up at the planet and find Picard in that state, then they can basically assimilate Picard and bring him back to life.
Well, I'll say a couple things. One, Cinnamon Bun, from what the trailer shows, yeah, we're getting more of those stupid killer orchids. But the other thing I think we're going to get is I think that the Borg cube is going to be a weapons platform, and it's going to start firing from the surface. It's like either that, or they're going to relaunch. They're going to be able to repair the cube enough, yada yada yada, and it will take off again. Either that, or it's going to be a weapons platform, and they're going to fire from the surface.
Yeah, those flowers were like the only. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think the sphere is going to launch. I don't think they would have gone through the trouble of showing us the sphere in the flyby if it wasn't going to launch at the end of the set.
Seven piloting it in some way.
Maybe just the remote piloted. I mean, honestly, I don't think they care about who pilots it.
Yeah,
Or they
I
could go
could see that. I could totally see that, 100%.
Or they could open up that time portal and go back in time and prevent everything from happening.
Yeah, I thought about that too, but I think that would just be too complicated.
Now, the
Yeah.
only thing I really did not like about this episode was the flying orchids.
Oh, I hate those. I flippin' hate them. I even said it in my review. I flippin' hate them. It was the one thing that just, no, what the go away with that.
What universe am I watching? That what?
Stupid flying orchids of doom. It's just that pissed me off.
And Elrond will end up with Spot 2 because he never saw a cat before.
He always wanted a cat.
He never seen one, so he will end up with Spot 2.
Kind of like that they did that tie-in.
All other synthetic life will be destroyed except Spot 2.
Yeah.
It's like one of those Japanese robots.
Aren't holograms synthetic life? Technically,
they don't count for some reason.
They don't count. But for me, I think what I'd like to see is I don't really want the synths taken out completely in episode 10. I want there to be a remnant of them and a remnant of the threat, and then you can carry that over to season 2. I think that would make season 2 a lot more interesting, because if you just, if they come or they stop them and they don't arrive at all, okay. Yeah, the only storyline for season 2 you've got is, okay, now we're going to go back and weed out all the bad eggs in Starfleet.
Right. I mean, if you get rid of the synths, it just make it seem like a bad guy of the week type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I'm hoping that they're, we get the battle, but at the same time, it's not completely won and it's not completely lost. Maybe a retreat.
Something like that, yeah. Because what to do in season 2 if you wrap up the whole story?
Yeah. And I just don't see them doing it. I really think we're going to end up where Picard and crew are on the losing end of a battle, and somebody's going to warp in, save them, warp out. We got to regroup back to blah, 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 and that they're taken out of there. Or even, Picard is on the, I don't even know the name.
we have Riker, who is still in active reserve. So
and it would be a good way to bring in Captain Randall or Crandall.
That's the whole thing. I don't think
who is Captain Randall
or Crandall. It was in the Riker episode.
I don't think Riker would be on the ship though. Not after what the dialogue they had in that episode.
Why not? The dialogue they had in that episode was Picard looked at him and said, "Would you ever ship out again?" And he said, "It would have to be for something more. It would have to be for something very, very important. What's more important than saving Picard's ass?"
And he did say, "I am on active reserve." So
yeah. So I mean, and that is a 100% Riker maneuver right there. to come in right at the end, right when Picard needs him the most.
So speaking of Riker maneuvers, you still think he can sit down like he did in TNG?
I can't believe Matt texted.
Honestly, I'm sitting down like Riker did because of my back, and he did it because of the same reason. So
it's supposed to be a funny haha moment.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we even know what happened?
Could Riker be one of the on one of the 12 ships that they were sending?
It's possible. He could be the lead of the. He could be the officer in charge.
Because he's the only one who knows where they are actually heading, or has some kind of idea.
So if you're going to have somebody swooping in, you already know those 12 ships are on the way. There's to get right.
And somebody should be able to follow 218 ships, Romulan ships moving around the quadrant without shields and cloaks. Without cloak on.
Yeah,
that's kind of annoyed me in this series is the incoherent use of cloak.
Well, did you see ships? They look like just a little bit bigger than a TIE fighter. I mean, a dude was standing up on the bridge, and then it looked like he had like maybe one deck below him, if not 3/4 of a deck.
Is there a bathroom on that ship? Because it seems like it's gonna be pretty tough. Maybe
they have to load your machine.
You can still beam it out.
They got a corner. They have a corner. It's fine.
Yeah,
got a corner.
It'll be all right.
But no, so I think what I really want is I want the battle, but I don't want it to be won or lost. I want the tactical retreat.
But once again, we are getting a Star Wars battle in terms of visuals and too many ships and everything, rather than the typical.
I think if they do the 218 fleet, right, and as long as the Picard ship can't launch 100 shuttles, I think we'll be fine.
We have now the orchids. Space orchids.
Well, we know we're going to have the orchids.
15 of them.
Yeah, I mean, the orchids are going to be involved one way or another, because I mean they're shown in the trailer.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't know how many they have because at first I said 15 and then they said 23.
23,
yeah.
They built some because they went immediately into manufacturing new manufacturing or growing. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Quantum.
The magic tulips are going to drag the Borg cube into space.
Yeah, sure. What I'm hoping is that we get a little bit, one last gasp out of the Borg cube would be nice. Whether it's being used as
because otherwise we have no reason having the Borg cube down there on the planet, because the whole plot of going to the cube was completely unnecessary. Because even Seven and Elnor stayed on the cube, they didn't go with them.
Yeah,
I'd still like to discuss that theory with Bird later sometime about the sphere that we know the cube has, and if it went back in time. But I don't want to do it here because I know you're running. You want to wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up because we've gone for 2 hours. I think that's pretty decent for a morning ramble. And I want to thank everybody in the chat. I know we didn't cover a lot. I don't get a chance to do a lot of covering the chat because I've got 5 other people up here, and it just kind of gets distracting. So I want to thank everyone for bearing with us and contributing to the conversation. And I want to thank everybody that came up to the panel. And
thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. And until next time, take her easy, folks.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, sure.
Just want to, I'll probably be about an hour and a half. We're going to start Cinema Saturday. So
sounds good, Bird.
Be on the lookout.
Awesome, Bird. Thank you.
Awesome. On your channel or Bird or Pray 5?
The main channel, Bird or Pray 5.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. See you there. Okay. Bye.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah. Till next time. Take care easy, folks.